Amena Bakr, Senior Research Analyst at Energy Intelligence. One of the big question marks a month coming out from the OPEC Plus meeting, Amena, is inevitably, and as we get closer to the date, will they or won't they proceed with their increases in production? The grade eight producers within OPEC Plus that have announced plans to raise oil production from October 1st. Are we in the zone of the criteria where that will proceed, in your opinion?
Well, I think right now, Sean, the price is encouraging. I mean, we are moving in that direction where a lot of countries feel comfortable to bring back supply. And on the back of that, they are seeing demand improve as they've predicted during the second half of the year is usually when you have a pickup in demand. So if prices continue to stay strong in this high 80s level, this will give them a higher level of comfort in bringing back supply by the end of the third quarter. Just also a few things ahead of that. By the end of June, the OPEC Secretariat had finalized the plan for the compensation cuts for Iraq, Russia, and Kazakhstan. And just a reminder, Sean, those volumes are going to impact how much additional supply comes into the market. So for this year, for example, we have increments of around 180 or 200,000 barrels a day coming in increments by the end of the third quarter. So that 180 or that 200 might be a lot less because of the compensation cuts. And what we're seeing so far is that all members are being very compliant. They've seen what would happen if the compliance starts to lag and its impact on prices. So I expect compliance to remain strong, but the risk is also when you have a very strong oil price or high oil price, it's tempting for some of the members to start, increasing their supply a little bit. But I think with the mechanism in hand and the plan to return volumes, this will discourage the producers for leaking additional supply ahead of that.
But Amena, it seems to me that, again, I'm going back to the high watermark. Big election result in Iran over the weekend. The reformists coming in with the win there. A very serious indication, potential outlook for the Iranian political future. We had the Saudi foreign minister, making some profound remarks over the weekend, sort of pointing to Europe and saying, where's your direction of travel now that your elections are over? Are you going to start coming to the table and using your muscle to bring some settlement to the Middle East equation? Your thoughts on that geopolitical risk premium looking out for the rest of the third quarter?
It's definitely still a risk, Sean, and I agree with Omar. We haven't seen the end of it, and things are still very uncertain. I mean, we're still dealing with conflicts that are ongoing. Gaza is still ongoing. The conflict in Ukraine, Russia is still ongoing. So we haven't resolved any of these conflicts yet. So the risks of supply disruption remains. We haven't seen any of that yet, and I know the market at many times when you have even a very according to at least our assessments, a very high level of risk, they've brushed it off because we haven't seen any kind of physical shortage of supply. But that risk remains, and I think it's still a big factor. It's kind of in the background for OPEC Plus decision makers, but it is one of the drivers they do consider when they do set policy. And that's why we're seeing this very, very cautious approach. Even when they're returning supply, it's done in a very gradual way, not to cause any disruptions to the market. And because of this high level of uncertainty, despite the fact that they do think, I mean, OPEC, the Secretariat didn't change its demand forecast for the second half. They still have that very bullish number of 2.2. Personally, I think they are going to have to revise it at some point, but they're sticking to it for the time being. But because of that uncertainty and because of those geopolitical factors that you expected, I do see them taking a cautious approach to things.
One of the things I've been sort of struggling with get a sense of where are inventories at the moment, the global inventories, the ones that the OPEC Plus look very closely at. How do they have to move, if you like, for order for OPEC Plus to to continue, sort of proceed with its increases, however mild that might be in the fourth quarter. They are planning over 12 months to increase quotas at least by 2 million barrels a day, starting in October 1st. Where does inventories need to be? How do they factor into their thinking at the moment?
The benchmark has always been the 5-year average, Sean. I think they still look at that, but they look at it more loosely. I mean, we've seen a strength in the oil price just based on the fact that inventories in the US have been declining, and based on that, the oil price rose. So yes, they do keep an eye on inventory levels, and there's been a kind of frustration within OPEC because previous to that, I mean, we did see that fundamentals didn't reflect very accurately in the price. And they were saying that negative sentiment is kind of overwhelming traders and everyone else. And that's why it brought down the price, despite even, I mean, the day of the decision, as you saw, when they announced that big plan, perhaps it was difficult for the market to digest that day, but it was a signal that the market was going to get tighter. And what happens usually, just I mean, just the last couple of OPEC meetings, when they do announce this kind of bullish policy, it takes some time for fundamentals to catch up with the price, and that's what we're seeing now. This tightening is starting to catch up with the market. The market is starting to realize how tight things are, how inventory levels are dropping, and that's reflecting in the price. And I think that's kind of satisfaction for OPEC producers to see that their policy is having the impact they want on the oil market.
When you just take that point, I mean, obviously, looking a month after that OPEC Plus meeting, in the aftermath, when we saw the oil price drop, OPEC Plus and its leaders were quite upset, quite cross even in some of their public statements at the general commentariat, if you like, and investment banks pointed out for misbehaving and so forth. Where is that dynamic now, do you think?
Well, I think that communication between the two parties really needs to improve. We're still seeing that kind of level of, I mean, between OPEC and the IEA, that dynamic of tension does still exist. The consumer-producer dynamic, I mean, that's not something that's been resolved, and that's something that I think it will only improve by better communication. And I mean, it's to the advantage of both parties really to start talking more, sharing more, because it's, I mean, to the general public, it's confusing when you see numbers with very large discrepancies, and it's just a matter of time, Sean. I mean, just we're on nearly, I mean, 6 months till the end of the year. Let's find out how much demand grows, who's more accurate, OPEC's statistics versus the IEA's. So it's just a matter of time till we see what reality brings in. Just another milestone that's coming up, Sean, is the 1st of August, where OPEC Plus is supposed to have their JMMC meeting, and that's when they're going to be reviewing the market conditions, and we'll get a better indicator of the plan to bring back supply into the market.